GH1 TV, your best experience.
A very good evening. Many thanks for joining us on News Tonight. My name is Kweku Temen. We're live on DSTV channel 361. Well, just before we move on to the details of our stories, let's look at our headlines. Supreme Court dismisses a 7 million cedi compensation request, granting a 45,000 instead to a teacher who was wrongfully jailed for 15 years. We'll bring you details on the particular development. Also coming up tonight, Health Minister and laboratory scientists clash over when the current strikes ends. In the meantime, both parties are locked up in a meeting. Tonight, we'll find out if that means an end in sight. And also coming up tonight, former Energy Minister Katie Hammond says claims of vindication by former government appointees is immature, insisting that a merry deal must be abrogated. All right, so we'll bring you this and many other interesting details, as well as business, international news, and some entertainment. Let's now take our very first story for tonight. The Supreme Court has shut down an attempt by a teacher in the northern region to get a 7 million Ghana cedi compensation package after he was wrongfully jailed for 15 years.
Eric Asante was wrongfully jailed for allegedly defiling a 14-year-old student. According to the court, the reasons attributed to the teacher for seeking the amount could not be proven. The teacher argued he has suffered mental damages, psychological and emotional trauma. He also claims he lost investments he made prior to his sentencing. The 7-member panel insisted the teacher's physical appearance did not connote that he had gone through any mental torture in prison. They, however, granted him a 45,000 cedi compensation for the curtailment of his freedom and ordered that his salary arrears for the last 13 years be paid him. Eric Asante was acquitted and discharged by the Supreme Court in January 2017 after a DNA test carried out on the baby, believed to have come about as a result of the supposed defilement, proved that he was not the biological father.
All right, Wilberforce is joining me. Wilberforce Asare is our court correspondent. He joins me to share details on this particular story. So, Will, you've been on this beat for some time now. Maybe you can refresh my viewers a little bit as to how far we got here.
Well, so Eric Asante was jailed in 2005, I should say. Now, after 2005, when he was jailed, he appealed the sentence of the High Court in Tamale. He failed at the Court of Appeal and subsequently proceeded to the Supreme Court. It took nearly some 10 or so years before his case was determined by the Supreme Court in 2017, January 26th. Now, when the Supreme Court decided that he wasn't guilty per the evidence that was put before them, Eric Asante decided to apply for compensation at the Supreme Court. And so the panel that determined the compensation package that was awarded today is the same panel that sat on his case during the appeal sittings in 2017.
Now, Wilberforce, at the time when he was just acquitted, was there any compensation for him even before he applied for this amount that he was looking for?
Well, essentially no, because it was a criminal appeal. He had been convicted and sentenced to prison, and he was appealing that. And so at the criminal appeal sitting, the Supreme Court will not be inclined to give you any compensation award. It had to constitute a new application, and that is why his lawyers then, he was taken care of by Francis Sosu, who is currently on suspension by the General Legal Council. He was the one who took the case through, and indicated the day the case was determined that he was going to apply for that 7 million cedis compensation for his client, looking at the period of time he spent in prison and also the damages that he suffered while he was in prison. And again, for the fact that he was a teacher and the monies he could have made between 2005 when he was incarcerated until the time when he was released from prison, leading to his acquittal and discharge by the apex court of the land.
Well, but first, I'd want my viewers to get a clearer understanding of what he got today. So let me ask the question where I would want to find out. So he was requesting for 7 million. The Supreme Court denied. Give him another package. Can you just give me a picture of the two? And let me find out if he's really gained or lost.
Well, so the Supreme Court, in its wisdom today, said that looking at the person who was standing before them in court, he doesn't look like somebody who had suffered any trauma or any psychological issues. He looks fine, he looks okay. And so based on that, they are offering him 45,000 Ghana cedis from the consolidated fund. Now, beyond that, as a teacher, whatever he was entitled from 2005 when he was incarcerated to when he was released out of prison, making some 15 years, the court is saying that all the salaries and benefits that he was entitled to, the state should pay him those monies. We do not know how much it's going to amount to.
I kept saying that because having the ability to play with figures. Now, I was looking for the figure, multiply it.
Yes,
is
so
it
let's say
compounded with interest or something?
So, obviously, they are salaries. So I don't know whether...
So if at that time my salary was 400 Ghana cedis,
exactly.
that is just what they are going to use.
Well, maybe in the wisdom of in the wisdom of the people who are going to compute this thing at the controller and accountants general or the pay general, whatever, probably they are going to use prevailing figures now, looking at the level at which probably, because we are talking about promotions. Absolutely. As a teacher, he was going to be promoted 14 years, probably going to be promoted maybe 3 or 4 levels by now. And so it's going to be interesting how they are going to do this calculation. But for now, what we know is that the Supreme Court says that they are offering him 45,000 Ghana cedis to be paid to him from the consolidated fund. However, his benefits as a teacher, salaries and all other things that he was entitled to from 2005 when he was incarcerated to 2016 or 17 when he was released should be all paid to him.
Well, but first, I just want to get his reaction a little bit. Maybe, I don't know if you had the opportunity to interact with him or the mood on his face or how he received this information.
Well, so Eric Asante is a good friend of mine. Incidentally, we share the same birthday. And so we relate at a different level.
Absolutely.
Now, he told me that, well, he's going to have to make do with whatever the apex court has said. He's going to make do with the 45,000 and hoping that his benefits and salaries that have been ordered to be paid to him will also amount to some considerable figure that he can use to do something for his family. His lawyer expressed a bit of disappointment, though. His lawyer said that he was expecting that if this, for anything at all, the Supreme Court would have given them half of what they were asking for. That would be some 3.5 million Ghana cedis. But to come down all the way to 45,000 Ghana cedis and to say that his salaries be paid, and he thinks that his client has not been treated well. However, they still accept the verdict of the apex court of the land, which is the Supreme Court.
You think that brings the matter to finality?
Essentially, yes. They did not indicate to me that they are going to ask for a review or whatever. I've heard some lawyers on social media making comments that there are legal authorities to back him if he decides to go for a review. We do not know whether his lawyers will go on that path. 5 members of the Supreme Court sat today. So if he decides to go for a review, the Chief Justice can empanel another 7 or 9 or 11 Supreme Court judges to consider his review application.
Well, Professor Sari, thank you very much for joining me with all these updates from the